Another important in-tourist must in Moscow is the agricultural exhibit, a permanent fair or exposition. This 500 acres of land, of parks, fountains, the 16 individual pavilions representing the 16 Soviet republics, this I find is a preview to show the full potential of the Russian tomorrow. Although the pavilion of the Ukraine, for example, already exhibits several models of Russia's most modern farm machinery, as used in that famous breadbasket of Europe. Next day to the Kremlin with Miss Moscow.
Ever since 1955, Mr. Feder, the Kremlin gates have been open to visitors, but only with special permits, and we must enter through the official visitors' gate. Now our privileged visitors may have a good look at the Cathedral of the Annunciation. And here is the Assumption Cathedral of Ivan the Terrible. Through that door, many Tsars have passed for their coronation.
I ask about an ancient fresco above that door. Isn't it a painting of the Virgin Mary?
The famous cathedrals are all here just as they were, Mr. Feder. Of course, no religious services are conducted in any of its churches. They are now historical showplaces which belong to the people. And inside, they are educational museums.
Among the other relics of Tsarist days is the largest cannon in the world. And nearby, the largest bell in the world. The former Uluzheniya Palace is now the Armory Museum. Inside, I managed to photograph a few of the late Romanov vast treasures. Precious metal in such profusion it begins to seem like brass and tin, but happens to be solid gold and silver. The jeweled crowns and imperial paraphernalia of the Tsars are here. And another curious paradox. Carefully preserved are the holy articles of the Tsar's religious ceremonies. A huge Romanov family Bible, found in heavy sculptured gold, studded with giant diamonds. Similar gold and bejeweled prayer books, chalices, icons, altars, communion cups, crucifixes, with rubies, emeralds, and pearls, all out of the Arabian Nights. And famed relics of the Easter once holy in Russia, the Romanov Easter egg collection, fabricated by the deftest goldsmiths in Europe. Jewel-adorned gold and silver and platinum, enamel and ivory and hand-painted miniatures, perhaps the costliest gadgets of all time. But the number one attraction in Moscow, indeed in all Russia, is Red Square and the incredible paradox of the Lenin-Stalin Mausoleum. Here on this fine, warm summer day, marshaled by white-coated guards, thousands, yes, tens of thousands of men, women, and children line up in silent reverence. At a given signal, edge slowly forward for a precious glimpse of the embalmed bodies of the Soviets' two here acknowledged supreme heroes. Here again is fantastic illustration of the different racial types which constitute Russia's 250 million inhabitants. The white-coated gents are specially trained police, because the many strangers from far-off corners of the Soviet Empire must be handled with care, here where they are to learn the new and different way of life. Lenin and Stalin. Lenin is, of course, a legend, sanctified against all opinion save legend-worthy worship. But Stalin, what is Stalin today? A myth? How long does it take to completely dishonor a mythically glorified idol? And does the Kremlin really want to? His body is still here, beside the sainted Lenin. It's the same on this unpleasant gray winter day, with sleet turned to rain, and the temperature up from 30 below to a mere 10. Yet heads are bared in reverence. It's still Lenin and Stalin here, still the wholesale silent veneration, still the miles of worshipers, still the long, thin line of paradox in the vast, wide sea of enigma. Important people, however, are on arrival taken at once to the head of the line, like these high dignitaries of the Yugoslav Church. Here, these men of God, to pay holy tribute to two dead men who are famed, among other things, for denying God. This is Russia. Yes, this is Russia, but not all of Russia. Let's visit the Soviet Socialist Republic of Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is, for one example, a native nomad Uzbek tribesman, endlessly wandering the glaring desert north of Afghanistan. For we're out of Europe now and deep in Central Asia. And the Uzbeks are Asiatics, a Persian, Mongol, Turkish people. For centuries devout Muslims, proud of their own alphabet and language, and devoted to their famed Samarkand bread in its flat, decorated loaves. Uzbekistan is also the fabled city of Samarkand, today almost lost in its own hallowed antiquity, with its monumental ruins of palaces and mosques, originally built by Genghis Khan himself. My in-tourist guide here is Mr. Samarkand, who speaks some English, but brought along Miss Interpreter, a native Uzbek girl and very gracious. They proudly point out the Russianized Asia rebuilding program in Samarkand's huge central square. The Registan, built by Tamerlane, the Iron Cripple. Many of these massive structures were once Mohammedan theological schools or madrasas, with not only classrooms but living quarters for thousands of Muslim students. For Samarkand was and is a holy territory of the Muslim world. Another ancient landmark has been left intact.
The astronomical observatory of Ulugh Beg, Tamerlane's grandson, partly underground. Its angles and curved walls are very ingenious for the 15th century.
Which prove the Russians were people of science before America was discovered.
But I thought the Russians weren't even here till 1868.
Getting late. Time for lunch.
So we eat in this roadside restaurant. I eat my shashlik quickly. Make the excuse that I want to put the automatic camera on me cooking shashlik with the Uzbek proprietor and his Russian wife, and then wander off, alone, outside. In the mosque, I casually find, in a thickly shaded area, a group of Uzbeks, blandly engaged in the black market sale of meat. Illicitly slaughtered lamb, a serious crime, both the slaughtering and the selling. These folks aren't aware I'm taking pictures. I doubt if any of them knows what a camera is. But one old boy, always behind me, is gradually getting angry. And a few seconds after this scene ends, follows me off, draws an old-fashioned pistol, and pulls the trigger. It doesn't go off, and he suddenly roars with laughter at the joke on himself when he realizes I'm not from the police. But I still get out of there fast. Beyond the Blue Mosque wall, I privately find nearby what is locally believed to be one of the holiest places in Central Asia. For here the Muslims insist that their valiant Saint Zinda will someday return from immortality at this spot to lead the Muslim world to glory. Occasionally, a few pathetic Muslim nomads from the desert, afraid to actually enter the town, slip unobtrusively here as a religious pilgrimage. There's always available an old mullah, a Muslim teacher, around to offer up prayers for a small fee, a plaintive sort of bootleg religion. It's here I learn of a Mohammedan mosque operated in Samarkand. I decide to find and visit the Grand Mufti, the head of all the Muslims in the district, at his home. He is entertaining 4 of his mullahs, is cordial, and speaks fairly good English, which helps because I didn't come here with Mr. Samarkand or even Miss Interpreter. I ask if I may attend the Mohammedan service. And on Friday, the Muslim Sabbath, the Grand Mufti himself takes me alone to the sacred confines of the age-scarred mosque. I keep thinking what this kind and gentle old man, 84 years old, said to me before the service.
It is only the old men who can come to prayer. The younger men must work on Soviet schedules. So under the present regime, it's foolish to imagine that any religion can survive as long as the state does not recognize the holy days of any faith. This makes it impossible for us to observe our Ramadan, or the Catholic to observe their Lent, or the Protestants to observe their Sunday, or the Jews to observe their Sabbath. And gone out of all Uzbek Mohammedanism is any hope of the highest aim of every Muslim, to dream that some rare day he might make pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca. Today the greatest reward any Muslim may look forward to is an official trip to Moscow. Not the holy Mecca, Moscow.
Next day, the marketplace of Marco Polo is an in-tourist must. Here in the midst of ancient history are the new white buildings of Soviet state shops. And here in the footprints of the Mongol conquerors walk the MVD police with their modern methods. This Samarkand is now Russia. Around another Uzbek oasis grew up the sprawling Asiatic city of Tashkent. Here I see machinery, road-making machinery, always drawing a crowd of curious Uzbek inhabitants. I ask why women laborers. Mr. Tashkent and Miss Interpreter chat a moment in Russian.
These women are specially trained colonial workers. They go wherever they are needed in any part of Russia. Tashkent has many broad new avenues and modern buildings. And renowned throughout the scientific world is the Tashkent Academy of Sciences.
But only its distant front can be photographed, with the accompanying collegiate statuary glorifying athletic prowess. Tashkent University has its own sports stadium, where its colonial students practice the required and cherished athletics. Everywhere in Tashkent I see Russian soldiers. They're called border guards, and they have their own special uniforms. But Tashkent is 200 miles from the border. The MVD is also here, and this one doesn't seem to like being photographed. They handle everything from traffic control to market inspection. Tashkent is known as Textile Town, and next day we're to visit a cooperative cotton plantation.
The sign says, the future will be bright for our children if we raise more cotton. The blackboard shows the workers are exceeding their quotas.
We pass through field after field of cotton, being hand-picked, almost all the workers women, Asiatic women. Next we stop at a state-owned plantation. Here Miss Interpreter isn't sure I'm allowed to take pictures. I'll have to wait for the supervisor. But before he arrives, I manage to photograph these youthful laborers, some of whom seem below the Soviet minimum child labor age of 16. Miss Interpreter objects.
These are not workers. They are young Soviet citizens learning a trade.
At the textile mill, the supervisor catches up with us. Miss Interpreter translates for him his pride in this project for which he is responsible.
He says the Soviet Union is now independent of the rest of the world in cotton. This mill processes cotton from the raw material which comes in at one end to the printed fabric which goes out the other. This is the largest textile mill in the world.
I ask about visiting the other factories in the area. I'm told there are 7, each employing 12,000 people.
Oh, no, it is not forbidden. But a letter would have to be written and a special permit secured for Moscow. And this would be very difficult.
By now I know this means there's not the barest chance I'll get near those factories. Nor could anyone I met in all Russian Asia tell me what is being made in those factories I couldn't see. As we leave, Miss Interpreter translates a message from the workers for me to take back to the Western world.
Please tell the people of your country that the Soviet citizens of Central Asia do not want war. We are a simple-minded and peaceful people.
This is Russia, ruled from the Kremlin. But there's more, much more of Russia. Let's take a look at the Soviet Socialist Republic of the Ukraine. The good ship Len Soviet is to take me across the Black Sea to the Crimea. My in-tourist ticket provides me with a deluxe cabin, roomy and comfortable. Its radio speaker brings in only the voice of the Kremlin broadcasts, with no switch to turn it off. My fellow passengers seem to be about 70% military. The others I find are scientists, teachers, theatrical folks, workers from all walks of life, being rewarded for some exceptional service to the Soviet state. For them, this voyage is an earned and organized holiday. Anchored off Sevastopol, but completely out of sight of the naval base, large personnel launches take off the lads in uniform. Our next stop, the magical, mythical paradise of regimented vacations, Yalta, the pride of the Red Riviera. Here, Mr. In-Tourist Yalta takes me over.
Our schedule starts with the largest sanatoria in the world. It was formerly a Tsar summer palace, but is now the official rest resort of the forestry workers of Russia. All our stations have a rest home. This is one of the rooms occupied by the late President Roosevelt during the Yalta Conference. The room is now a dormitory for forestry workers.